beautiful morning in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We're here building a 280-gallon coral reef tank. We've been here since Friday. It's now Sunday morning. We've got the live rock in the tank, and it appears as though one of the rocks there in the back has fallen. But the rest of it sure looks impressive, and the water certainly has cleared up fantastically. And as you might expect, that rock that tipped over and hit the inside panel of acrylic did leave a couple marks. Bummer. Considering how precariously it was stacked to try to hide that internal overflow, and the fact that it's the only rocks that have tipped over in the tank, I consider myself lucky and fortunate that it was just those two little tiny marks. The first ones are always the worst. And once again, I take just a moment to step back and take a look at what we've created. And I have to admit, again, I'm pleased. Well, we've got the calcium reactor running, and we're in the process of rinsing it out. It looks like most of that rinse water is clearing up. This is what we've been rinsing it out down into. Don't need to introduce that dust into the aquarium. We've got the CO2 bottle with the solenoid valve and the pH meter hooked up. This pH meter is reading the pH inside that probe just on the discharge or inlet side of the water pump. And we need to do a little more research to figure out how exactly this works, but I suspect this box here gets plugged into the power supply, and the back end of it you plug in the power supply for the solenoid valve, and this acts as a relay which is controlled by this pH meter. And I also got the leak on top of the filter resolved. I unthreaded those bulkheads out of that manifold, Teflon taped them, and then rethreaded them back in, and that solved the problem. Part of the equipment that we're going to put on the tank is one of these aquarium computers. I picked this up from that 100-gallon tank, that reef tank that we broke down a while back. Turns out, though, this particular brand doesn't work in an electrically surge-protected system, and this fancy house, its main input of electricity is on a surge system. So we won't be able to control anything through this via that X10 process. But we will be able to use this to monitor stuff. So what I'm doing right now is dangling the probes into the sump. And I'm going to hook those probes up to this unit. We'll be able to measure the aquarium's pH, the aquarium's ORP, or oxidation reduction potential, as well as salinity and temperature. We'll also, with the temperature thing, be able to confirm what the temperature is, because I think we do have an issue with the chiller unit. It's been running all afternoon and doesn't seem to have pulled the temperature down. But at the same time, there's a tremendous amount of heat coming out of the back of the chiller, which tells me that it's at least pulling heat out of the water. Anyhow, I can resolve that issue. So let's get to work putting this aquarium computer into the system. So we've got the probes dangling in the water now, and we hooked up the aquarium computer, and we're simply using it for monitoring purposes. We got a pH of about 8.303, 75.4 degrees, ORP 162, and the salinity in microsiemens is 41 point something. There's a chart around here somewhere to convert that. So we're going to use this for monitoring purposes only at this point. Here our calcium reactor is running, and you can see its effluent dripping into the tank right there. There's a little valve to control that flow. We're not pumping CO2 in there yet, but I just have it running. So I think our system is now fixed of all of its leaks. So other than making a bunch of notes tomorrow morning for items that I need to ship in here, supplies, backup supplies, we're going to set up a quarantine tank down over here, those kind of things. So other than that, I think this 280-gallon coral reef tank is ready to go. In fact, we're already making arrangements for the Coral Farmers Market to occur here in the next month, and they're going to fly on out to California. We'll do the Coral Farmers Market, we'll do a couple local retail stores, and then we'll do the Coral Frag Guy, Danny up at wetthumbfrags.net. He'll be a big supplier of the corals. So provided I don't get snowed in here tomorrow, or that silly cab service forgets me again, I'll be going home. Thanks for coming by and watching this episode of LA Fishguys. Hope you learned something, and in times of frustration and trouble, keep moving forward.